Hey, happy Sunday, y'all. How we doing today? Hope everybody had a great week and hope all the Santa's elves are being productive out there and things are going well for you. Welcome to live Q&A number 17. Let's start off by kind of going down the list of folks who's hanging out there. We have Dan Chapin. How you doing, Dan? Leo Steger. Howdy, Leo. John DeRoos. Mike Gallo. Bob Heltebridal, poster of all things funny and sometimes head scratching. Adam Scott. David Krause. Steve from Harneal Media, the sponsor of Mark Lindsay CNC.com and webmaster to the stars. Greg Dent is out there. David Lister and Ayal Peleg. Excuse me. Kevin Els joining us all the way from Africa. Holy cow. And Dave Gatton. How you doing? Dave Gatton, the man responsible for all of this. All of this is because of Dave Gatton, my CNC Obi-Wan. Les Douglas. Adam Scott. I think I said hello to Greg Dent, but if I didn't, I just said hello twice. So, and then Jeff Peters from Restorer 66 over there. A couple of questions came up before we went live, and I'll go ahead and I'll get to them real quick. Let's see. Adam Scott said, "Hi people, I have a TEG CNC mill. Could I use it okay with SolidWorks CAM? I'm a beginner with CNC and even CAM, but intermediate with CAD." The reason I went ahead and jumped on this one real quick is because I get questions like that a lot about a particular machine. And I would say to you, Adam, the people to get a hold of would be TEG Tools. And that is simply because I've never been in the same building with the TEG mill. So I wouldn't know where to start. I would look at it, scratch my head, but that would be probably about it. I would get a hold of TEG Tools. They undoubtedly have some sort of support system in place, whether it be a support forum or training videos or even hands-on training. I wouldn't even begin to try to advise you on a TEG mill. That's number one for me. Is the hardest part of DIY is knowing when not to. So that would be my advice for anybody. I do have folks asking me about Shapeoko machines or their Legacy or Laguna machines. I just don't know your machine. Just about every manufacturer has a support forum or some form of support. And these are the people that know your machine. These are the people to talk to. They're the pros from Dover. They'll get you set up and get you going in the right direction. So, sorry I can't be a whole heck of a lot of help, but that's about as far as I can go with that one. So, speaking of Dave Gatton being out here in the chat, let me remind everybody about the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge. A lot of these challenges and competitions and contests in the quote-unquote maker community kind of frown on CNC folks. So what Dave did was stepped up to the plate and took it upon himself to start a Christmas challenge just for CNC. So it's open to folks with CNC routers, CNC plasma, I believe he said 3D printers, correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, or CNC lathe, rotary axis, whatever. You'll find the complete rules to enter over on his website, and there is a link in the description box below. But you got to get, it's time to saddle up, get on the horse, and get moving because the deadline is Christmas Eve. So if you want to get in on the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge, you'll find a link down below in the description. So get in on it. I mean, he's got some decent prizes, and, it's all about the fun. It's all about the glory. So get in on it. Believe me. Okay, yes, frown, yes, they hate us CNC guys. You're absolutely right. Because we all know this isn't real woodworking. That's okay. We'll have fun doing it anyway. So, we'll kind of go back up here and cruise back up the questions here. Mike Gallo had a question about okay, I have many designs for laser cut 1/4 sized wood. I'm assuming you mean thickness. I want to cut it out on 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch. If I scale it, the design gets too big. Besides modify every notch to a specific size, is there any better way to do this? Then down below, he qualified it a little bit more by saying, where did it go? Excuse me. Where did it go? Good grief, excuse me here. He qualified it by saying that the designs are in DXF and maybe there is an easy way of modifying DXF. Not in my experience. In my experience, the DXF file, if it needs modification, it basically you have to go in and modify either each entity, or you can bring it into something like VCarve where you can convert all of those entities into curves, then possibly modifying. But short of entering it piece by piece, I can't think of a way to get in and automatically do any of them. So it's just a I don't know. It's kind of a case by case thing. It generally speaking, I can't think of an automatic way to convert all of the files automatically, or all of those entities automatically. So let's see. Let's see, Jeff over there, Restore66. My question today is, if I'm doing a flourish that has some lines that don't cut very deep, can I use the start depth to increase the depth of that cut by adding figure? Okay. Yes, you can do that. Generally speaking, though, depending upon the bit you're using, you may sacrifice square corners for that. I find that usually if you want to increase the depth of cut, the best way to go is try a bit with a steeper angle. Like if you're calculating the toolpath with a 90-degree V-bit, switch over to a 60-degree. If that isn't enough, try 45-degree. If that isn't enough, try 30. But be warned that with that depth may come multiple passes. So that generally that's the better way to go. If you put in a start depth of 10 thousandths or 20 thousandths, something like that, it may not square off those corners because it thinks it's just got to plunge deeper into the material to get to the beginning of that flourish. So let's see. Leroy Johnson wants to know, can Mach 3 be used with any CNC machine? Unless, I'm not going to say any CNC machine. There are some control boards that will not work with Mach 3. You might want to ask. I mean, it depends on the CNC. Some of them do, some of them don't. It just depends on what you're doing. And I'm sorry I can't pinpoint more than that. Some of them just are not designed for Mach 3 at all. Usually they will say not compatible with Mach 3, but it's also a major selling point if they are compatible with Mach 3. So if it is compatible with Mach 3, they'll say so. But if you're looking at something like, for instance, the Axiom, I know they use a uh, proprietary system. So does Laguna, not Laguna. Yes, Laguna. Laguna has a proprietary control board system, and so does Digital Woodcarver, I believe. Those will not work with Mach 3. Again, I see you're qualifying now saying you have a Bob CNC. Again, get a hold of Bob CNC. They know their machine. You know, they will tell you if Mach 3 is compatible. So, okay, let's see. Dan Garton wants to know how to make my own grayscale files to get high quality 3D carvings like you can buy. I'm using Aspire 10. Thanks. Yeah, Dan, I want to know how to do that too, meaning I haven't got to that point yet. I'm still learning it. I've had Aspire for a little less than a year, and I'm still getting used to some of the controls and trying to perfect that. I have not seen a definitive answer on that. I've had a couple of people tell me, well, it's not really that difficult. Yeah, well, neither was falling off a log, but, you know, so I'm still getting into that, so I don't have an answer for you yet. Okay, Dan Chapin says my 60-degree V-bit runs around the outside of a vector, then drops in a dot in the middle of the vector. I'm wondering why the software is dropping that dot in the middle of the vector. Well, are you using, first question would be, are you using the V-carve toolpath? And are you using a flat depth in that toolpath? If you're, that's a head scratcher. I would try, just for giggles, try a flat depth of 0.1, and don't use a large area clearance tool. Recalculate the toolpath and just see. Just see what happens. Okay, let's see. Okay, Dave Matthews. Hi, Mark. I got a V-carve question. I want to invert a piece of Vectric 3D clip art so what is normally the highest becomes the lowest. Okay, the objective is to make some cookie molds. I suspect I can't without going to Aspire, but is there a way to do this? Yes, there is. I'm going to show you in Aspire, but it's identical in V-carve. So let me get Aspire pulled up, and we'll go ahead over here and share screen. Okay, I'm just going to create a file here real quick, and we'll go over to clipart, and just for giggles, I will pick the alligator. Let me double click it to put it in the middle of my piece of material. Then I'll expand it so that folks can see it, and I'm hoping folks can see it. Let me take a look here. Yes, okay. Okay, then you go over to the modeling tab, and if you look over here, I've got the alligator selected, and it's selected over here in the component tree here in the modeling tab. If you look at this icon right here, you can see that pop-up screen says Combine Mode Add, which means if I look in the 3D view, it's additive, meaning that the high points are the high points. Well, if I come over here and right-click, go into Combine Mode, and select Subtract, it's now, the high point is now the low point. However, you'll see it still has this ridge around here, around the outside, because it doesn't know where the modeling plane is. So we'll come up here and add a 0 plane, and there is your subtractive. So now the high points are now the low points. This is also how you would take a piece of that clip art and make a mold if you so desired. You wanted to make a mold for silicone or what have you to mold stuff with. But that's it right there. It's the combine mode, change to subtract. Now, conversely, you can select the piece of clip art and go up here to properties, and you would select the combine mode up here as well. But they both have about the same effect, basically. Okay, I hope that answers that question. So, let's see. Okay, Percy Kuka wants to know, is cutting depths for hardwood the same depth as the end mill diameter? For example, if a 3mm end mill is used for cutting a 12mm thick wood, should the step down be set at 3? I normally go for 1/2 of the bit's diameter. And each piece of wood is going to be a little bit different. Each piece of material is going to be a little bit different. If you think that's a bit much, then you might try 1/4 of the bit's diameter. So you're using a 3mm bit. I don't know your machine. I don't know your system. I would set that depth of cut to 1.5 millimeters. I would not go more than half the bit's diameter. Now, if you want to reduce that a little more because you think it might be too aggressive, you can go for 3/4 of a millimeter. So let's see. I hope that helps. Let's see. Stephen Toronto just saw where Mach 3 does not work with MacBook Pro. Does anything work with a Mac? If it does, I'm not aware of it. Just about everything, except for maybe, I don't know if Fusion 360 works with Mac or not. But basically, the CNC control software is PC based because folks have a real aversion to taking a $6,000 MacBook Pro outside into their shops when you can get an El Cheapo PC for a few $100s. I don't think there is a Mac version of Mach 3. So, and just to be clear here, I still use Mach 3 because I got it long before Mach 4 came out. If I was just starting out right now, I would go for Mach 4. It's just that I have Mach 3 now. It works. I'm used to using it, so I don't see a reason to upgrade. But if I were just getting started, I would go for Mach 4 just to have the most recent updates. So let's see. Dan Chapin, try a 0.1 flat depth and see if that improves anything, and use try with and without a large area clearance tool. If you can, as I said earlier, shoot me a message through my contact us page on my website. I'll reply to you, and that'll give you an email address to send me a picture. Okay. Again, folks, the easiest way to contact me is through my website, marklindsaycnc.com. There's a link down in the description below. I can't answer Facebook PM requests because if I did, I would be on Facebook all day dealing with PM requests. There just are not enough hours in a day to do that. So get a hold of me through my website, the contact us page at marklindsaycnc.com. I do read every message, and I'll get back to you just as quick as I can. Okay? Okay, let's see. Percy Kuka, is setting the feed rate between 30 to 50 safe for using thinner bits like 3 or 2 millimeter? I don't know. I'm assuming you're using the metric system. I'm an imperial system guy, so I really don't know metric. I don't know if 30 millimeters per minute is real fast. I don't know if it's real slow. I basically start mine at around 30 or 40 inches per minute and then learn and progress from there. Now you can Google 30 inches per minute in millimeters per second, and it will give you an answer as to what that is. But I really don't know metric. In fact, let me do it right here, right now. Take a slight digression. 30 inches per minute in millimeters per second. Okay, 30 inches per minute is 12.7 millimeters per second. That's what I would start at, and then slowly increase from there. If it appears to be running too slow, you can usually speed it up on the fly. But if you start hearing or seeing any shuddering or any kind of chatter, slow it down again. So hopefully that's a little bit of help there. Now I know. But on a small bit like that, because 3 millimeter, and 3 millimeters is not quite a 1/8 inch bit. Yeah, somewhat starting at somewhere around, what does it say here? Somewhere 12 to 15 millimeters per second would be a good starting point. Then you can kind of gauge from there. So, Dave Matthews, perfect, thanks. I can just stick that at the bottom of a pocket and instant mold. Yeah, exactly. It depends on if you're looking for a positive or a negative mold. So, okay, let's see. We seem to be out of questions. Hopefully I've taken care of everybody. I'm kind of going back through here and looking to see. Yeah, it looks like we're all caught up. So does anybody have any more questions other than that? Have I got everybody? Wow. Okay, looks like I'm going to go ahead and we'll wrap this one up a little early. Don't forget about the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge. And while I'm talking about the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge, go back through the chat over here if you're not already a subscriber, and put your cursor right next to Dave's comment. You see those 3 dots. Click on those 3 dots and a little panel open. And the top one is Go to Channel. Right-click that and open his channel in a new tab. Then give Dave a subscribe. He hosts a live CNC podcast, I almost said. A live CNC show every Saturday night at, I believe he starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. Pacific. He has a very good panel, a very good casting crew out in the chat, taking questions, giving answers. And as I've said many times before, he is my guru. You will learn more about CNC watching his channel than you'll learn things you didn't know you wanted to know. You'll get answers to questions you didn't even realize you had. Check him out, give him a subscribe and a follow. Hit that notification bell so you find out when he posts his next video. So, again, the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge, there's a link down in the description box below to where you can get all the rules and figure out how to enter. So, go for it from there. I mean, it's something to get involved in. It really is. Okay, Percy Kuka wants to know also, what's the major difference between 2 flute, 3, and 4? Well, the short, smart aleck answer is the number of flutes. The longer, more detailed answer is, generally speaking, for woodworking, 1 or 2 flutes is the best way to go. The max I usually go is 2 flutes. There are a couple of exceptions. And that basically has to do with the speed at which the bit is turning. With a 2 flute bit, if your spindle is turning at 10,000 RPM, generally speaking, the chips have time to be evacuated up out of the material. When you're using 4 flutes, you basically have doubled your RPM. And because instead of having two flutes going around to make a cut, you now have four. So it's going to cut the same as if you were running at 20,000 RPM. That might not give the chips enough time to evacuate out of that cut. So I generally speaking go with two flute bits at the max. And most of my bits are two flute bits. Then I can run at about 16,000 RPM and everything cuts just fine. If I put a four flute bit in and tried to run at 16,000 RPM, the wood would start smoking and I would be grinding all those chips into dust. That just creates more heat, which increases tool wear, increases friction, and can burn the material. So I have, I think, one 3D tapered ball nose that is three flute, but other than that, I stick with two flute or one flute bits. So let's see. Question about upgrading to VCarve Pro. I have 9.5 on two computers. Can I leave 9.5 on one and put 10 on the other? Well, you could, Jeff, if you want to, but I don't know why you'd want to keep the older version. I upgraded and I've never looked back. I have no reason to have 9.5 or, my first VCarve, the first version of VCarve I downloaded was the trial version of 7.5. And I bought 8.0. That's when I got started. And I've never looked back. When I upgraded to 8.5, I just have never gone back into 8.0. When 9.0 came out, I upgraded to that and never used 8.5. So you can, but I don't know why you would want to. So let's see here. Dan Chapin, you mentioned that you would go with Mach 4 if you were starting out. Would you consider UC CNC? Is it worth saving $140 to use UC CNC? That would be, and I see Dave has answered your question right there. That right there is an excellent reason to subscribe to Dave and watch his show on Saturday evenings. I know absolutely nothing about UC CNC, Linux CNC, or any of the other alternates. And I know Dave has experience with UC CNC. Just me here. If Dave says it's a good option, I'd believe him. He's forgotten more about CNC than I've ever learned. So, but he talks about UC CNC quite a bit. He is experienced with both. I don't know if he's gotten into Linux CNC yet, but I know he's had a few guests on his show who are into it and are users, and they seem to like it a lot. So, okay, let's see. Jeff Restores 66. It is my understanding that all of their 12 Days of Christmas won't work on 9.5, but on version 10. Yeah, exactly, Jeff, and that's why I say I don't know why you'd want to go back to 9.5. The interface between isn't changed much between 9.5 and 10. They both work about the same. There are more options, and there are better. Excuse me. You'll find more options and better performance out of it, but I don't know why you'd want to go back to 9.5. So, Peter Pasuelo, Mr. CNC Nuts in the house. How you doing down there, Peter? Hopefully you're having or had a good Sunday. I imagine it's Monday for you now. So, well, we're just getting ready to wrap up. Jeff says Laney from Digital Woodcarver will be live on Tuesday night this week, 7 o'clock also. That's right, Laney Shaughnessy over at Spindle TV. On YouTube, search for Spindle TV. And also, if you're not subscribed to Peter Pasuelo down here, CNC Nuts, get over there and subscribe to that channel too. Peter's was the first CNC channel I ever subscribed to before I met Dave Gatton. And I've learned so much watching Peter's experiments and his presentations. It's not even funny. The man really knows what he's doing. The man really knows his stuff, and you will learn loads. So subscribe to Dave Gatton, subscribe to Peter Pozuelo over at CNC Nuts. You won't regret it. Okay. Jeff says, I'm concerned that last year's files won't work on 10. No, Jeff, it's the opposite way around. 9.5 files will work in 10. 10 files will not work on 9.5. So they are backwards compatible, but they're not forward compatible. So everything you ever created in 9.5 will work in version 10. But if you want to keep 9.5 on one computer, be my guest. That's your option. So I know on my laptop I still have old versions. I didn't delete them all, and I don't know why, but I don't use my laptop very often. So, okay. I'm going to go ahead and one more. Percy Kuka. For carving, we generally set the step over 10% of the diameter of the ball nose. What's the best percentage do we use for roughing? For roughing, it depends on the bit. For ball noses and end mill, for ball noses, I go with about 20%. With flat standard end mills, I have 40%. With V-bits, I believe I go 20% also. So, yes, I see some chatter going on over here in the chat room, and Chip does need his own show at least. Maybe his own channel, but definitely his own show. You know. For those of you who don't know who or what Chip is, go over to Peter Pozuelo's channel and check it out. You'll enjoy it. Some good stuff. It's actually very fun. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this out now. We've been on for a little over a half an hour, and I want to try to keep these at about a half an hour. So, again, if you need to get a hold of me for anything, the absolute best way to get a hold of me is to visit my website, hit the contact page. There's a link down in the description box below, and send me a message. I read every message, and I'll get back to you just as quick as I can. Also, know that you only have about, you have about 9 days to get in on the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge. Also a link in the description box below. So get on with it. Get it going. And we'll go ahead and end this one right here. Y'all have a great Sunday. Get out and make some chips. And for Santa's elves, we're getting down to crunch time. So have a good one. Take care. And remember, this is supposed to be fun. So have fun with it. Have a good one.